Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be back here today. And today we are talking about a very important topic, something that affects a lot of companies, really most companies, and what's going on just in today's world. And that is the Great Resignation. So before we jump into that, I just want to say hello, everybody. I am Renee Terrell, your marketing and brand strategist, and I help business owners, service providers, and established authors monetize their message, expand their digital presence, and attract their ideal client with ease using my practical, proven strategies. And I am here today talking with none other than Andrea Payne from Diversity Works. So, Andrea, go ahead, tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Hi, Renee. Thanks so much for having me. Happy New Year and Happy New Year, everyone. So, I am the principal at Diversity Works, and this is a consulting firm, New York based, but we work remotely with small to mid sized companies, and we help them develop their diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies and come up with their statements, their mission statements. We also do internal audits, equity audits to determine what's going on in the company and how we can best serve you and your employees' needs. And this is a part of the Great Resignation. It's why I'm here because so much is going on in so many companies. Business owners need to know, what do we do? There's high turnover all of a sudden. We weren't anticipating this. How do we get people to stay? And this is what we do. We go in and do an audit to determine what is going on in your organization, why people are leaving.
That's amazing to have, because one of the things that you have to have is a process, and then the importance of the process is so that you can evaluate where in the process you need to make changes or do different things. So when we're thinking about the
Absolutely.
Great Resignation, first let's just talk about what is that. We've been hearing a lot about it. Just go ahead and tell us, what is the Great Resignation?
Well, this is also called the Great Awakening by some, and this is the Great Resignation is a term that was coined by Texas A&M management professor Anthony Klotz. And it's basically to describe the self-reflection work that people have done during quarantine. Some people entered the pandemic saying, hey, I'm thinking about my past 20 or so years at this firm or this job, and maybe this is not where I'd like to go or where I see myself in the next 5 years. I'd like to reinvent my career. Where do I go from here? And some have decided that in this time, they've gotten to spend time, have family dinners for the first time in years. They're not out schmoozing clients and going to happy hours every night. And they'd like to get that sense of normalcy back, that sense of family time back. So for some, that may mean they'd like to work more remotely or do a hybrid model versus the everyday 9 to 5 like we were doing before. So that is how we've come into the term the new normal, and what does that look like? Because for everyone, it looks quite different.
That's true. And it's so amazing when you talk about it, like people wanting to spend time with family and deciding that they want to go after their passions versus just working from the beginning to end. And I think a lot of that happened as well as because of they're seeing what's going on in the world. Like life is short, it's not necessarily promised. And so if I know that this is my creative genius, or this is the brand that I want to put out to the world, or I have this innovation, this product, this service, now is the time for me to do that. So now how is that affecting like companies and employers with when they have that? Like how can they really kind of speak to that when it comes to their employees?
There are so many different things happening right now, so it's hard to determine what's going on without doing an assessment of your company's internal culture. And that's an important piece of, and that's what I do here at Diversity Work. So I would ask questions and determine what's going on in your organization. What are your concerns? How many people have left? And we would look at the data and the numbers and what uh, programs do you have in place already? Do you have any employee resource groups? Do you have anything any initiatives that make your employees feel valued, seen, heard? Have you done any sort of outreach during when the George Floyd murder happened? Did you check on your employees? Did you see how they were doing, what their well-being was like? Did you, give permission for people to take time off if they needed it during that time to deal with trauma from all of these news events and the three pandemics, racism, economic hardship, and just overall life with the pandemic?
Right. And I mean that is some good things that you brought up when you're talking about like the culture within the company, and what's happening. There was a study done, and I'm going to share it, but there was a study done where it talked about what happens, or like what are some of the reasons why, there is this great resignation. Like, why are people doing this? What is it that's driving it, basically? And I'm going to
Yeah.
share that. Some of the things that they found were, first of all, a toxic corporate culture. So that kind of goes back into what you were saying before. But they also said job insecurity and reorganization, high levels of innovation, a failure to recognize employee performance, and then a poor response to COVID-19. And I think
Yeah.
that when they say like a response to even like COVID-19, again, like you're saying, are you checking on your employees to see how they're doing? It's really interesting when we see now that the culture has changed. When we're looking at the marketing and the commercials, first it was a lot of commercials dealing with Zoom and virtual meetings, because that was just kind of like where the world was in that moment. And now we're seeing ones that talk about, we care about our employees, and we have these resources open for them, because it's not just about an individual, it's now about the whole organization as a whole. And they're looking at, well, how well do you treat your employees? Do you pay them? Are they,
Right.
they work so hard, especially in all this that's going on. And so that's really important now, that companies actually pay attention to that. And I know it,
Yeah.
it can be kind of frustrating if you see, publicly your company is saying we do this, we care about our employees and this, and then maybe privately you have a different situation. So like,
Well,
what are you seeing with your clients when it comes to that? Like, how are they dealing with just this change, basically?
there are some that have been trying to get ahead of it, which is great because you always want to be proactive and sort of mitigate any risks before they happen. And there are those that are like, oh my goodness, like this is happening so fast. What do we do? How do we do it? And I need everything right at once. And there are signs because people typically don't leave great jobs. They leave bad managers. They leave toxic workplaces. And there may have been complaints that were ignored in the past about maybe a particular manager, and it was sort of dismissed or ignored. And you're seeing the results now because people are like, no more, I'm not going to deal with this. And there are other people hiring, and I could go, elsewhere, make more money, and probably not have to deal with this type of behavior. Or this person is doing an inclusive initiative, a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, and this is a company that sounds like I'd like to be there. I prefer to be in that environment versus where I am now.
Yeah, that's so important. And then that goes back to just the overall brand of the company and the organization. I know when we talked before, we talked about how employees are rating their jobs, their previous employers, and the experience. What's the environment like? So that way, potential employees can see like, oh, is this a toxic environment, or is this something that I would want to be a part of? Do they, encourage creativity and innovation? Now, I know that when we were talking earlier, you were saying that also, what the next, like millennials and generation, what is it, X or Z, or Generation Z is okay. So tell us that. Tell the statistic about that, or talk about that a little bit. What's going on with millennials and Generation Z?
Uh, Part of the reasons that people are leaving, and you mentioned in the survey that you listed, growth opportunities. So Gen Z and millennials in a recent Gallup poll, 87% highly value growth and development opportunities, but only 39% felt like they had learned something new within the past month. So people want to learn, they want to grow, they want to expand. and they want to keep their skills sharp. They want to, learn. They want to progress. They want to grow with the company. So if you're not offering those opportunities, if you're not doing continued learning, or you're not even offering maybe a stipend for a continuing education seminar, and someone else is, or they're offering tuition reimbursement, that's where they're going to go. We saw Target all of a sudden started offering tuition reimbursement, and they were beginning to win the talent wars against some of their competitors. So you have to stay on trend. You have to know what's current, what's evolving, and what people are looking for in the marketplace, because this is definitely job a job candidates market.
So tell us some more about diversity works. Like how would you help a company that is in this situation where they're seeing a lot of their good talent leaving, and they're trying to attract new talent to kind of replace them? What could your company do to help them achieve that goal?
We again do an assessment. What types of means and opportunities are you offering? Is there mentoring within the organization? And is that mentoring intentional? Is that mentoring geared specific towards, or are you also focusing and including those that have been marginally excluded in the past? Women, people of color, uh, people with disabilities. What are you doing to advance them in the workplace? Do they feel valued? Do they feel like this is a position where I can be promoted in? Do you see value in them? Do they feel seen, valued, and heard when they show up every day? Are they afraid to bring their authentic selves to work? Because we spend so much time at work that, we probably even spend, before the pandemic, we were definitely spending a lot more time in our workplaces than we were with our families, many of us. So it's, what if I'm going to be here and spend that significant amount of time in my workplace and what I do, I want to definitely feel that I want to bring my whole self to work. I want to be productive. I want to feel seen. I want to feel valued. I want to feel included and have a sense of belonging in that culture. So it's examining, do you offer an environment that has that?
I think that's so important. And then just even when you're talking about attracting it, like marketing it and branding it, just letting the world know that this is our work environment, where
Yes.
whether we're creative and we like innovation, and these are the people, you might see those commercials where they show all these different things, happening. We created this. We take the greatest minds, we put them together, and we have this outcome, right? And so join us. This is the, such and such company, we're working for you, right? Or we're innovating for you. And it's like, I want to work there because look what they're doing. They're saying they have the greatest and brightest minds, and that's what I want to be. So just even thinking about that when it comes to what's your company's brand as it relates to talent, to other people. And it seems
Right.
like them going through an assessment and really having you come in and review and also train their employees on how to do what it is that they need to do in terms of not only diversity, but really being able to attract the right talent will really help take the
Right.
organization to the next level. Because at the end of the day, if you have the best people, you're going to get the best outcome, right? You have the smartest people,
Right.
you're going to have a good outcome at the end of the day. And that's what you want to hire. You want to hire the people that are going to help you achieve your objectives in a way and give you the results that you are looking for, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I
Absolutely.
just think that's really important, and just paying attention, like you said, not being behind the curve. So if you're an organization, you're a company, you know that, hey, I need to hire good people, or I'm losing my good people, or people are sticking around because they start out really strong, but then other things have started to take their attention away. As an employer, you have to look at yourself and say, well, what do I need to do to change, or how can I really kind of tap into my employees and see what do they need from me, or how can I do this in a way where we have a common meeting ground. Because I know a lot of employers are like, I get that, but we have bottom line, right? We got to get the work done. So if you won't
Oh,
do it, someone else
absolutely.
will do it, right? And I've heard a lot of employers say that. But then what they're finding out is, like, look at the whole debate about minimum wage, right? And
Yes.
are we going to raise the rate? We're going to raise the rate. It was a whole thing. They were going to go through Congress, all these things like that, right? And now, what are you seeing? Employers raising salaries because you have
Yes.
to be competitive. So it's kind of like the market really helped them adjust to what was necessary. Like, no, you have to, because otherwise you're not going to be competitive, and you not it's not even about even getting some of the best. Sometimes it's just being able to get people to do the work, period, right?
Yes.
So I mean, it's really important to pay attention to.
Pay equity and pay transparency is a hot topic right now. In New York City, we just passed legislation that now, well, it used to be that in the hiring process, they didn't have to mention what the salary range was until the end of the hiring process. Now they're requiring it to be in the job description. And that goes into effect, I believe, this April. So it literally just passed, and they're going to sign on the dotted line, and it goes into effect in April. But some other states and municipalities already had that going, and pay equity was always an issue. We've been fighting to try to pass the Equal Pay Act, and now that people are home working remotely or have been during this pandemic, you're outside of the office environment, many people that are working remotely, and you're exchanging cell numbers with your colleagues. So you're not necessarily having office conversations that may have been monitored, or you were concerned about who was going to overhear you. You're freely chatting. Say, well, hey, girl, how much do you make? And I
Mm.
make XYZ. Really? They only pay me XYZ? I'm going to send out my resume. So that's another way of how people are, finding out that they're not being paid equitably, and they're leaving. And an internal audit from diversity work could have prevented or mitigated all of this. If you're paying people equitably and fairly, then when people get on the phone, the salary is the same. The salary range is the same based on your skills and experience. So this would be a problem that you could mitigate.
I think that's that's so great, because how many times have people gone through jobs and you're looking like, well, what are they paying? What's the pay
Right.
rate? What are you going to offer, right? And then you go through all of that, then you find out the job. Like, if you had known that in the beginning, you wouldn't even have gone through the interviews, right? Because
Yes.
you're like, oh, this is not for me, right? And what they I think they like sometimes try to count on that. So then it's like, oh, well, I'll just take it because it's such a great job. And then they could say, well, we're going to offer growth and all that other stuff. So I think that that's a great thing that they passed, to let people know. So again, don't waste time. That's one of the things. My biggest thing is, let's not waste time. It's the
Wow.
most
Important
expensive
thing.
currency. It is your time, and you can never, ever, ever, ever get that back. So you want to make sure that when that is happening, that you know what you're doing with your time and where it's being spent, because that's just something that you can't get back. So I
Absolutely.
think that's a great thing that they passed. And I think it's also great work that you're doing at Diversity Works. Again,
Thank
this is
you.
Andrea Payne with Diversity Works. And if you want to reach out to her, you can find her on all social media platforms at Diversity Works. And my name is Renee Terrell. Again, I'm a marketing and brand strategist, and I help business owners, service providers, and established authors monetize their message, expand their digital presence, and attract their ideal clients with ease. So, with that, we are going to sign off. Any final words, parting words, Andrea?
Well, I should have mentioned this earlier in our discussion. One of the things I found interesting during this whole Great Resignation, and area that people are overlooking that has been hit by this Great Resignation, is ministers in the church. And I was really surprised at that, because we don't tend to include them in regular conversations on business and strategy and retention. And in a global pandemic, everyone is looking for some sort of healing, for some sort of solace and comfort. And where do you go? You go to your churches, you go to your spiritual leaders, and even a lot of them are leaving because they don't feel valued. They don't. They're Some of them are burnt out. Some of them are saying that they feel like they're now mediating all of these skirmishes between either the denominations or the congregants between vaccinations and wearing masks, and it they're some of them have denominations or congregations where they may feel as though they can't actively take a stance against homophobia or against racism because powerful donors in the congregation may withhold donations from the church as a result. So they want to go somewhere or maybe to another denomination or a congregation that's in alignment with their core values. So I just thought that was so interesting because we tend to think it's just the service industry folks like the restaurant workers that are being hard hit or the retail workers, but it's every industry, including ministry. It's the uh, lawyers, it's the professional service workers, it's bankers, it's everyone. Everyone is having this great awakening of, okay, this is not working, and it's time to find something that does work for me, and they're making it work for them. So these are all things to keep in mind.
Well, definitely. So that means nobody's safe. That's what that means, right?
No
That's what
one
I
is
got from
safe.
it. It's like no company is safe, but no company is safe, right?
No
Everybody
industry is
has to
safe.
look at how they do business and how they do
Yes,
business with others, and how they are treating people, both their
yeah,
customers
absolutely.
and also the people that they serve and the people that work
Yes,
with them, help them provide that product or that service. And I think that's just kind of, I feel like the world is kind of equalizing in that arena, that it matters. It matters how you treat people. It matters how you treat your employees, and it definitely
yes,
matters how you treat your customers, and what is their experience. And when they're saying, "Hey, this doesn't work for us," are you paying attention as a company or organization to say, "You know
yes,
what? We got to make some changes so that we can keep these people around because we value them, and we recognize that our success is because of the work that they do, the hard work that they
yes,
do, right? Because if they're not there to do it, then who's going to help us?" Right? So I think
yes.
that
There you
that's
go.
just a really great point. Nope, nobody's safe. Right? So
No one.
it's important to pay attention to this. Pay attention to how your organization is showing up. Pay attention to how your company is showing up, and how you are treating your people, and the messaging that you are putting out to potential customers or clients. How are they seeing your organization? Is it a place that treats their employees right? Is it a place that provides
Mhm.
good quality customer service, something that people want to patronize? Because people care about where they're placing their dollars, who
Yeah,
they're spending it with, and what companies are doing as a result of it. Because if we're paying you, if I know I'm paying you my Amazon subscription every year, and then I feel like it's crazy or something like that, or other then I'm gonna think about that,
right.
But if I feel like you're taking care of your employees, you're doing what's necessary, then that matters. And so that's why even Amazon was a great, I was playing that jokingly, but still, that's another great company that has starting to see marketing videos and things
Yes,
talking about how they're helping their employees, go to school, go to medical school, do things that are not necessarily related to Amazon, but helping them to fulfill their passion, their goals, instead of
yes,
just being about work and things of that nature. And so that's those kind of things are also important, especially when you're trying to attract clients. I mean, when you're trying to attract employees who can actually be competitive and help you achieve your goals,
yes.
because everybody's
So
always
true.
looking at what's in it for me,
Me.
right? What's in it for me? What do I get, when I
Right.
choose you over this other company? And what kind of benefits? What can I expect to receive when I choose you over them? So that was a good and very interesting fact, that people are leaving every industry.
Every.
Every industry, which means at the bottom line, everybody wants to be valued. So,
Yes.
with that, thank you, Andrea, for spending time with me today as we talk about the Great Resignation. And I can't wait for our next discussion and what we're going to talk about. But until then, you can find Andrea at Diversity Works on all social media platforms. You can find me at Renee Motivates on all social media platforms. And until next time, you all be safe and have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this.
Thank you,
Bye.
Renee.
Thank
Bye.
you.